Hello everyone, welcome to Options with Doug, streaming live on Monday and Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Bookmap Discord and the Bookmap YouTube channel. Before I get started, I need to go through the disclosures. General disclosure, all Bookmap limited materials, information, and presentations are for educational purposes only and should not be considered specific investment advice nor recommendations. Risk disclosure, trading futures, equities, and options involves substantial risk of loss. It is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Here's my contact information. The best way to get in touch with me is through Discord. My name on Discord is Doug P. Also in Bookmap Discord, there's an Options-Doug chat channel. You can post questions, comments, and content related to the topics of my presentation and the topics of the channel that I'll go through in just a moment. I'm also on X. My name there is @DougPlass. Here are the key tenets to my approach to trading. I believe that options trades and market maker hedging activity are key drivers of price in many stocks and futures. That certainly applies to the large cap tech stocks like the Magnificent Seven stocks, as well as the equity index futures like the S&P 500 or the Nasdaq 100. And for the S&P 500, SPX is the underlying index. SPY is the ETF version of it, and that version of that index. And the ES futures contract is a derivative of SPX. And when traders buy and sell puts and calls in SPX and SPY, market makers take the opposite side of those trades and they hedge their delta exposure with ES futures. And for the Nasdaq 100, NDX is the underlying index. QQQ is the much more liquid ETF version of that index, and the NQ futures contract is a derivative of NDX. And just like the S&P 500, when traders buy and sell puts and calls in SPX, in NDX and QQQ, market makers take the opposite side of those trades and they hedge their delta exposure with NQ futures. The focus of my presentation today and the focus of the Options-Doug chat channel is options order flow, the impact of options markets on stocks and futures, and the influence of market maker hedging flow on price action. I have a two-step process for trading. The first is planning, and I use positional analysis. I look at how traders and market makers are positioned in the options market and how those positions change from day to day to develop a thesis regarding the expected trading range and volatility for the day, as well as a directional bias. And the second step in my process is execution. I look at real-time order flow in Bookmap and real-time market maker hedging flow in SpotGamma Hero to confirm my thesis and for setups. And when I talk about setups today, I will be focusing on an underlying asset. Setups in that asset can be taken with futures contracts, shares of stock, or options, depending on the asset as well as the way you like to trade. Questions and comments are welcome. And I will be watching both the Options-Doug chat channel as well as the chat and YouTube for your questions and comments. Please feel free to post. I'll do my best to answer your questions. Here's my agenda for today, Wednesday, July 23rd. First of all, I want to go over news items, economic data, and events for today as well as the rest of the week. Then I'll go through my positional analysis. Then I'll review some setups from earlier today. Then I'll take a look at the live market. And when I get to the live market, if anyone has any stocks they want me to take a look at, please let me know and I'll be glad to take a look at them. All right, let's get started with news items. All right, so there's been some tariff news and the tariffs in the news recently. So yesterday, the White House announced the White House had come up with a tariff agreement with Japan at 15% tariff rate. And the market jumped after that. And then today we'll see what happened. Let's go ahead and take a look at that now. Take a look at the ES futures and contract in Bookmap. So just before noon, the announcement came out that the U.S. was close to a tariff agreement with the EU with 15% tariff, which is half of what was announced just a few days ago. And there was a big jump up. And then consolidation after that will pull back. Now market trying to move higher. All right, so that is the news regarding tariffs. I think also the White House announced their AI action plan earlier today. All right, then for the rest of the week, coming up this afternoon, both Google and Tesla report earnings after the market closes. First of the Mag 7 stocks to report earnings. And tomorrow, 9:45 a.m., there's S&P Global PMI data, a variety of PMI data. And then Friday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, durable goods orders. All right, so another day, another rally. This time, I guess, based on good tariff news. Japan and EU. All right, so let's move on to positional analysis now. So again, this is the S&P 500, ES Futures, and Bookmap. Some key levels in play. Here's the ES upper daily expected move. That level was challenged earlier before the cash open. Acted as resistance. Right at the cash open price, ES did break above that level, then quick reverse lower, setting up a nice short. And then ever since then, it's been along, kind of a repeat of yesterday. Sharp drop just after the open, and then rally ever since, after 10 a.m. All right, so that is the S&P 500 ES Futures. Let's step back. Let's take a look at a higher time frame. Let's go to the underlying index. This is SPX. The underlying index again. And looking at recent price action. So this V-shaped recovery is complete after the and this downtrend began at the February expiration, shown by that red vertical line there. And then most recently, there was a little pullback and the rally resumed after the June expiration. And so far, no effect from the July expiration. All right, let's take a look now at a 30-day 1-hour chart. Day 1-hour chart. So at the end of last week, SPX broke out above this consolidation, rallied up on Monday, and then reversed lower. And then ever since this low on Tuesday, yesterday, I'll talk about that in just a couple minutes, the rally has continued. And it was a nice long setup yesterday. I did post that in X and in Discord. And again, I'll show that in just a couple of minutes. All right, so the rally continues. SPX continues to make all-time highs. All right, let's take a look at the expected moves. So let's take a look at the levels on this chart. So first of all, the dashed purple lines is showing the lower and upper weekly expected move. This is based on the options market, based on the closing price for SPX from last Friday. Those levels remain in place for the entire week. So far, SPX still within that range. Then the dashed blue lines are showing the lower and upper daily expected move, also based on the options market, based on the closing price for SPX from yesterday. Note SPX is trading up above that upper daily expected move. I do post those levels in Discord every day the evening before. So SPX trading up above the upper daily expected move. All right, let's take a look at the SpotGamma levels on this chart. These are shown with the dark red lines. They're based on gamma-weighted open interest. They're provided to SpotGamma subscribers on a variety of trading platforms. Again, this is Thinkorswim, a 30-day 1-hour chart. I'm going to point out the key daily levels. First of all, the absolute gamma strike is at 6,000. That's the strike with the largest absolute positive and negative gamma. So right now, that's where most of the gamma-weighted open interest is concentrated. And the put wall is above that at 6,100. That's a strike with large net negative gamma that can be expected to act as support. Can you hear me now? Is this any better? Somebody on YouTube, please let me know. Massive across. Is this any better? All right, Wayne says yes. All right, thanks, Wayne. Okay, all right, so that is the 30-day 1-hour chart. Rally continues. Now let's take a look at a one-minute chart to wrap up our view of SPX. So this is earlier today. The dark shaded portions are the regular trading hours. And this level around the upper daily expected move was resistance earlier today, also resistance on Monday. That is where the SPX rolled over down to this level. And then the rally began down here and continues. And that was around SPX 6280. All right, let's take a look at that right now. And I did post this in Discord and in X. So let's take a look at this. So yesterday there was a sharp drop lower. This is the SpotGamma trace heat map showing this positive gamma zone. SPX dropped sharply lower at the open, found support at that positive gamma zone. And at that time, again, this is yesterday, traders, and this is the SB equities, SpotGamma Hero SB equity signal showing traders started buying calls and selling puts down in that positive gamma zone. And then finally, here's Bookmap. This was down again around the that was the SPX lower daily expected move, also down around the ES lower daily expected move. And note this, key right here, large traders buying with iceberg orders. So it appears to be that the large traders with iceberg orders are aware of these expected moves and also the positive gamma zones, and they were buying this weakness down at that level. So this is how I combine Bookmap and SpotGamma for a setup. So that was a very nice long setup yesterday, and that rally just continues. All right, let's take a look at SPY, and then we'll get back to Bookmap. So again, here's the rally that began yesterday morning right around 10 a.m. A little bit of a pullback today, similar to yesterday, just a so for kind of a smaller picture of yesterday, down below the 630 absolute gamma strike call wall, and the rally continues. There's the EU tariff news, and the rally resumes or continues. All right, so back to Bookmap now. So again, I've talked about the upper daily expected move for SPX and for ES as well. There's the SPY 630 absolute gamma strike call wall. Price did breach down below that level. Now moving higher. We'll take a look at trace for today in just a couple of minutes. Note this 630 level, 6330, that is SPX 6330 level, was key for today, acting as resistance. It was noted as resistance in the SpotGamma AM Founders Note. It had acted as support just after the cash open. Price did break down below that, setting up this nice short right here at about the same time as yesterday, 9:45 for the first pullback. Resistance, resistance, and then price broke above that level as the news came out. And we'll talk about setups in just a couple of minutes. All right, so those are the levels in play. All right, so now the S&P 500 is heading straight for the SPX 6350 level. And note all the liquidity, the limit sell orders in the order book right around that level. Looks like they have moved down just a little bit. Again, those are limit sell orders. The heat map and Bookmap showing a history of the limit orders in the order book. All right, let's take a look at Nasdaq. All right, similar picture as ES. Sharp drop just after the open. Actually, this began before the open. NQ finding resistance at the 23,120 put wall. By the way, I forgot to mention for ES, I am looking at SPY and SPX levels on this chart, and there's a difference in price between ES and SPX. Right now it's 36 points. ES minus SPX, that offset, is right around 36 points. So I'm showing SPX 6330 at ES 6366. And I do post those index relationships that I use every day in Discord. All right, back to NQ now. So key level, NDX 23,120 put wall, which is actually above the call wall. That does happen in NDX from time to time. And that was right around that level was resistance, right before the cash open. And NASDAQ traded down to the NDX 23,000 large gamma 2 level. So the offset between NDX and NQ is 150 points today. So that is also at NQ 23,150, acting as support. Back up to the NDX 23,120 put wall and above, all the way to QQQ 563. All right, let's take a look at the underlying index charts. So I'm going to start with QQQ. And this rally that began yesterday was not as steep as it was in the SPY and SPX. All right, let's zoom in on this. Go here. All right, so here's the 560 absolute gamma strike. Price did break down below that, but again, went down to the NDX 23,000 level. There's the 561 volatility trigger, and then resistance earlier today at the 563 level. All right, let's take a look at NDX. Our NDX level is definitely in play for today. On the downside, the 23,000 level, that's a large gamma 2 level. And on the upside, again, there's that put wall, 23,120, which again is above the call wall at 23,050. That's also the absolute gamma strike. That level acted as resistance, then support. So NDX levels key for today. On the downside, on the upside, as well as support and resistance in between those two zones. All right, back to NDX. Again, those levels I've already pointed out on this chart. And Oguz. Hello, welcome, glad you're here. Hope I didn't pronounce your name too badly. All right, so it looks like now Nasdaq did find resistance. Looks like that relationship may have changed a little bit during the day. This is showing it found resistance at that level. The put wall, 120 put wall. All right, again, we'll talk about setups in just a couple of minutes. Let's take a look at Gamma to wrap up our positional analysis. And I'm going to go to the trace Gamma heat map. Let's step back in time. Let's go back to around 10 a.m. So I don't think the support was quite as strong as yesterday, the positive gamma support. But this is at, whoops, sorry about that. I'm going to have to refresh. Thought I had my pen tool. All right, so we're at 10 a.m. Positive gamma. So what this chart is showing, this is the trace gamma heat map. Red shading indicates negative gamma. Blue shading, blue gex bars, indicate positive gamma. So remember, in positive gamma, market makers are trading against price. They're buying dips and selling rips. So in this case, buying dips. And SPX finds support there. Let's step forward in time now. And slowly rallies off that level. Heading up into the positive gamma above now. Step back one time. All right, so you can see this 6360 level is the largest positive gamma strike. Let's see what happens. So we're now at 1210. Let's see what happens as we continue to step through time. All right, so the gamma at that level did increase and decrease, but still right now, 6360 and that level could act as resistance. And that would be equivalent to around 63.96. Note stability index, very high at 87%. So right now, SPX firmly in positive gamma with that large gamma strike looming up above. All right, so that is the that's the gamma picture for today. Again, SPX firmly in positive gamma, and if it does break above this level, there is some negative gamma up above. All right, let's take a look at some setups. I'm going to start with the S&P 500. Let's go to the S&P 500 equity signal. Let me zoom in on this. So what that chart is showing is options trades and market maker hedging activity for the S&P 500 index components. That's SPX, SPY, ES, and XSP. And the white line is price for SPX, and the purple line is the hero signal. A rising hero signal indicates traders are taking positive delta options positions. They're buying calls and or selling puts. And a falling hero signal indicates they are taking negative delta options positions. They're buying puts and or selling calls. And in both cases, market makers trade against, they take the opposite side of those trades, and they hedge their delta exposure by either buying or selling ES futures. All right, I'm going to shift to puts and calls, and I'm going to zoom in on this. So this is what I saw in the morning. So let's zoom back. Zoom to the morning. I've shifted to puts and calls. So the orange line is showing calls, blue line showing puts. So a rising orange line indicates traders are buying calls, and a rising purple line indicates traders are selling puts, and vice versa. All right, so what this is showing this morning, for the first 10 minutes, traders are buying calls. This flow alert comes in, and these flow alerts can often signal a reversal in this hedging flow, in this case from positive delta to negative delta, mean reversion. That's exactly what happened. This is a call peak pattern, very reliable bearish setup. Setting up a short, and that's actually just proved to be setting up a nice pullback for a long, just like yesterday at 10 a.m. But it was a nice short from 9:40 to 10 a.m. Again, very clear pattern here in Hero. Call peak, flow alert, and price reverses lower. Traders start selling calls, buying puts. Bearish momentum, price moves lower. Another flow alert comes in, and this time again signaling a potential reversal in hedging flow from negative delta to positive delta. That's exactly what happened. So let's go to look at Bookmap. And we'll take a look at the equity signal, which is pretty similar. So let's go back to ES. Let's zoom in on this. Let me clear my drawings. All right, so again, remember, first 10 minutes, traders are buying calls. They abruptly reversed from buying calls to selling calls right here. The volume dots of Bookmap show market buy minus sell. Green volume dots indicate there are more buyers than sellers. Magenta dots indicate more sellers than buyers. And you can see the aggressive sellers coming in, setting up a nice short there at that call peak pattern. Additional entry there just below that 63.30 level that I pointed out before, that it acted as support then resistance, also VWAP. Price broke below VWAP. Note the difference yesterday was that large traders were buying that move up with iceberg orders. Remember, the light blue line yesterday was rising. Today it was falling. Large traders are fading that move, helping to fuel the move lower. All right, so a nice short setup. That was good for about 20 points if you got in right at the top and held it all the way down to the bottom. All right, then after that, remember that next flow alert comes in, signaling another potential reversal and hedging flow. Again, that's exactly what happened. Trend break. And ES breaks down below the 630 level. Breaks above, finds support there, and then rallies. As traders start buying calls and selling puts. Let's zoom out. Oh, that must have been more news. All right, so choppy rally, deep pullbacks, and then the breakout news. Another pullback to the 630 level. More pullbacks for long entries. All right, let's zoom in. Let's take a look at current price action. All right, so right now, ES finding a resistance just below the 63.50 level. That is SPX 63.50. Again, note the sellers. Looks like those sell orders in the order book right around 63.85 were consumed. Let me check and see if there was any news just a couple of minutes ago. Okay, this is news came in from Trump trade advisor Peter Navarro on U.S.-EU deal report. Take it with a grain of salt. Let's see what happens. All right, so that was the news that caused that sharp drop right there, and now price has quickly recovered. Let's go back and let's see what options traders are doing. Not much of reaction. Let's check S&P equities. And remember the setup this morning. There's another call peak, short from about 9:40 to 10 a.m. Another call peak in the S&P equity signal. This signal is showing options trades and market maker hedging activity for all 500 stocks in the S&P 500 index. Another flow alert just before 10 a.m. Took a while for this signal to turn around. But right now it looks like most recent price action. Traders took advantage of this dip to aggressively buy calls. So they were buying calls, still buying calls as the S&P 500 dipped. All right, so another bullish day. Let me shift back to total. Let's take a look at one other thing. So this purple line is showing options trades and market maker hedging activity for all options expirations. Let's go back to S&P 500 and let's shift to next expiry. All right, so one thing to note. Total delta notional for today, 6.87 billion. That's just after 2 p.m. That's very large. That is a large number. All right, let's check. Now, next expiry, which for the S&P 500 would be options that expired today. So we can see a very large portion of this is, that's shown with a teal line, is 0 DTE traders. And these lines really did not show much difference until right around noon. So a large portion of this again today is 0 DTE. Let's check equities. All right, so it's up to 7 billion. So the delta notional and the index signal much larger than the equity signal. All right, let's move on. Let's take a look at Nasdaq. All right, similar pattern this morning. And we'll shift to, I'm going to show this peak here, then the sharp drop. Shift to puts and calls. Then I'll have to jump to the Mag 7 so you can see the sharp drop in calls there. All right, let's take a look at Mag 7, then a reversal, go to Mag 7. All right, so there's the call peak pattern, 9:40 a.m. And then right after 10, traders start buying calls, selling puts, price moves higher, still aggressively buying calls. All right, on to Nasdaq. All right, Nasdaq not quite up to the high of the day, which was right at QQQ 563. All right, let's take a look at some stocks. And Oguz, sorry about the, sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly. You pronunciate really well. Wish you a great session, a great stream. Thank you very much. Thank you for your kind words, and I'm glad you're here. All right, let's take a look at some stocks. And I will get to Google and Tesla, both reporting earnings after the market closes. Let's start with Apple. Let's see what options traders are doing. Let's go to Apple. All right, so Apple, this is a bearish opening drive. Full alert comes in just after the cash open. Orange line falling, traders selling calls. And Apple drops lower. 215 is the key gamma strike. So on Apple, a bearish opening drive, then recovery after that. Trying to make it back up to the highs of the day. All right, so there's the 215 level. Bearish opening print. Large magenta volume dot, a lot of sellers at the open at the 215 level. Quick drop lower. Falling cumulative volume delta. Now Apple trying to recover as the call sellers have taken the foot off the gas. All right, next stock, let's go to Google. Last time I checked, it was a pretty choppy session at Google. Also a bearish opening drive. Let's see what options traders are doing. Also a bearish opening print, shown by the large magenta volume dot. Let's see what options traders are doing. Go to Google. So a choppy session. And so far, net for the day, negative delta notional. Selling calls and buying puts, but not my much. All right, that's Google. Let's take a look at Meta. Meta was, there was a nice call peak pattern right at 940. Remember that time? Same as the indexes. Call peak pattern, reversal lower. Didn't last long. Flow alert came in and signal a potential reversal in hedging flow. That's what happened. Traders started selling puts, buying calls, price reversed higher. Overall bullish day in Meta. Pretty large delta notional. Net for the day, traders are buying calls and selling puts. Let's take a look at Bookmap. Meta. All right, so there's that brief call peak pattern reversal. Good for about 5 points, down from 710 to 705. Call buyers, put sellers come in. Price moves higher. All right, next stock I want to take a look at is Tesla. Solid Ice 100, welcome, glad you're here. Solid Ice says, sorry, I'm new. What is this we're looking at? Do you mean the application? So my name is Doug Pless. I'm presenting for Bookmap, and I'm talking about the process that I use to trade, talking about some setups from earlier today. Then I'll get to the live market. And I trade mainly the indexes, the S&P 500, Nasdaq, large cap tech stocks like the Magnificent Seven stocks, and some other stocks. So I use Bookmap and also SpotGamma tools like Hero to inform my trades. And the basis of what I'm doing is options. I believe options trades are key drivers. Options trades and market maker hedging activity are key drivers of price in many stocks and futures. So I'm showing that. All right, so I hope that helps. All right, so there's Meta, bullish day after a brief call peak pattern, bearish reversal. All right, let's take a look at Tesla, the other stock, Mag 7 stocks, that reports earnings after the close. So kind of a round trip here in Tesla. Let's see what options traders are doing. Go to Tesla. All right, Tesla also pretty choppy. Then traders started buying puts, selling calls right after the news came out. And Tesla reversed lower, back down to lows of the day below the 330 key gamma strike that acted as support earlier today. And now trading back above, so the call buyers have come back in. We'll zoom in on this just a little bit so we can see the action this morning. This is showing the first 45 minutes. Support at the 330 key gamma strike and put sellers helping to drive price higher. And Tesla held pretty steady until the EU news came out. I'm not sure how that would have impacted Tesla, but traders started selling calls, buying puts, and that is bearish momentum. Tesla traded down below the 330 key gamma strike, now trading up above. Down a little bit, so this is the 330 level. Tesla did trade it down to the 329 level just after the open before rallying. And then Tesla did trade down just slightly below that level again, now trying to make its way higher. All right, the last stock I want to take a look at is let me see, that is Vistra. Vistra is it's a utility, and this was on my watch list this morning. There were a lot of utilities and nuclear stocks, power stocks that were strong this morning. So let's zoom in on this just a little bit. All right, note 200 is the call wall key gamma strike. So a bullish opening drive in Vistra. Let's see what options traders are doing. Let's go to VST. Note this is not a very liquid stock. I did trade this. It was bid-ask spread was really a little bit too wide for day trading, but I did trade it. So there's the bullish opening drive. Traders buying calls from the open. That lasted for about 20 minutes. They took the foot off the gas. Price pulled back to the 200 call wall key gamma strike and stayed there for about 45 minutes until the call buyers came in again and started to move price higher. So it took some patience. But a long entry at 200 finally got up to the primary target at 205, the high liquidity limit sell orders in the order book, acting as a nice price target. So again, took some patience, or if you're quick, just after the open, watching Vistra, a couple of pullback to VWAP there for a long entry, another pullback to VWAP, or the main long entry, if you were patient, somewhere between 10 and 1045 at 200 call wall key gamma strike, and then holding there. All right, does anyone have any stocks they want me to take a look at, or any questions? All right, so watch list stock, now back to 200 level. Let's go back. Let's see what options traders are doing now. All right, so the call buyers have taken the foot off the gas. And the traders with puts have done nothing. They bought a few puts today. It's been the call buyers driving price. All right, so now Vistra chopping around the 200 call wall key gamma strike. All right, let's go back. Let's take a look at the indexes. And let's go back to the S&P 500. So traders continue to buy calls in the S&P 500 index, and equities aggressively buying calls. Go back to Bookmap. Now price is broken above the 63.50 level. Let's see what's up above. All right, so I don't see any gamma levels up above. And let me check. All right, so between SPY, this combo 3 level, the next level up is at 638.2. And that's right around, and that's a combo 2 level, up at 638. And that is right around ES 64.39. So another 50 points higher. And then for SPX, I've got the 63.50 level. And then up above that, 60, let's see, I'm not, 63.94, and that would be at ES 64.30, and then 6400 is 64.36. So there's a big gap between the gamma levels, between 63.50 and 63.94. So let's go back and take a look at our underlying index charts. I'm going to go to all right, so you can see that combo 1 level up above. This is the 30-day 1-hour chart. Combo level up above, then the 6,400 level, and then finally the 6,500 call wall. All right, so that's SPX. So big gap to the next SpotGamma level, and also the upper weekly expected move. We'll check trace in just a minute. All right, now let's check SPY. All right, so Nasdaq is broken above that 23,120 put wall level. Let's check SPY. All right, so again, a big gap between the current SpotGamma level right here and the next at 638.2. Let's check trace. So what I'm doing now is getting a sense of where the S&P 500 might head to. Solid Ice asked, does the hero data update live? Yes. So the hero data is real time. What I'm looking at now, trace, is updated every 10 minutes. All right, so remember the 63.60 level, that's SPX, which would be at ES 63.96. So that may be the next level of resistance. And then above that, a pocket of negative gamma, then more positive gamma up above. So we're looking for 63.96. Goose asks, is it possible to look at TLT or TMF ETFs? Yeah, we can take a look at those in Hero. I'll take a look in just a minute. Let's go back to ES. So now we're looking for that positive gamma level at 63.96. That would be SPX 63.60 and ES 63.96. So we'll see if the S&P 500 stalls at that level. And that would be right up here, right around SPY 634. All right, let's go back to Hero. And Akin asks, what are we looking at to get to 63.96? So it looks like aggressive buyers want to take it right up there. So we're looking at, let's go to Hero. Go back to Hero. So we know this is a potential target right here, this large positive gamma. It's ES 63.96, SPX 63.60. Let's go look at the equity signal. Traders continue to aggressively buy calls, shown by the rising orange line. Same thing with equities, although it may be slowing down just a little bit, but they're still buying calls. So if traders continue to buy calls, if aggressive buyers continue to buy ES, I think the move to 63.96 is could happen in short order there. All right, let's take a look at TLT. So there's TLT. Looks like net for the day. Hero is pretty flat. Let's go to the total signal. Slightly negative, minus 3.73 million. And choppy price action for TLT. Let's check TMF. Sorry, TMF is not in here. All right, so we're back to the S&P 500. Let's go to puts and calls. Shift to equities. Traders continue to buy calls. Let's go back to Bookmap. A lot of green volume dots. This would have been a nice long entry after that Peter Navarro comment, right down to the upper daily expected move. Note the liquidity limit buy orders right there. Price of first higher. Large traders are fading that move with iceberg orders, but so far they're not getting their way. So that's shown by the falling light blue line. And net for the day, since I opened Bookmap before 7 a.m., large traders have been selling with the iceberg orders. Again, not getting their way. It's aggressive buyers and buy stop orders fueling the move higher. So these are the iceberg orders. E means execute. So they continue to sell that, starting a little bit more aggressively. But the green volume dots and call buyers driving price higher. And Agoos, you're very welcome. All right, any more questions, comments, stocks? All right, so we're watching price move up to that 63.96. Positive gamma. Which would be right in here. Let's go check Hero. Let's check Nasdaq. All right, Nasdaq continues to move aggressively higher. Now up to the NQ upper daily expected move. Took Nasdaq longer to get there. Back to ES. Back to Hero. All right, so it looks like call buyers may be taking a little bit of a break. That's in the equities. Same for index. Call line starting to slow down a little bit. But so far, this is bullish momentum. Put sellers, call buyers. Let's check trace. I'm going to zoom in on this just a little bit. Let's check charm. What charm is showing is buying and selling pressure due to time decay. And charm can often show pinning targets at the end of the day. And what we would look for is blue buying support below and red selling pressure above. So what this shows as a potential pin target right now, this could change, most likely will, at 63.50, which would be ES 63.86. And that would be below the 96 target level, the positive gamma level. Kind of in between 50 and 60 there. And let's check delta pressure. All right, so delta pressure showing blue buying support below and a pocket of red selling pressure above, which makes sense, approaching that positive gamma. Very high stability index. Let's go back to gamma. Let's go back to Bookmap. Actually, we'll check Hero first. So call line starting to flatten out on the index signal. Same for the equity signal. All right, so it looks like now the large traders with iceberg orders finally getting a little bit of a win there. Looks like the aggressive buyers were exhausted. That was a stop run, shown by that icon there. Oops. Stop run. Sorry, I keep grabbing the wrong pen tool. All right, there we go. Stop run, sell iceberg orders. And the call buyers have taken the foot off the gas, and now prices drop back down to this combo level. So the question is now, will ES find support at this combo 3 level? And Akeen asks, buying pressure due to time decay means the buying and selling of market makers due to expiring options. Yes, that's right. So again, remember we're talking about mostly options that expire today, driving the market. And so we're talking about these options are closely approaching expiration. And time decay definitely becomes a factor in the afternoon. All right, so we know overall we have some buying support below, red selling pressure above, and that positive gamma zone at SPX 6360, ES 6396. All right, my time is up. I'm going to do a quick check. And quick check of Hero. Equity signal, call line still flat. Now they're starting to buy a few puts. Call line flat, starting to buy a few puts. Price is stalled. Go to the index signal. Quick check of trace. Oops. All right, so still in this positive gamma, 97% stability index. All right, so right now, it looks like that combo level is holding as support. All right, everyone, I want to thank you very much for watching. Thanks for your questions and comments over there on YouTube. Everyone, have a great afternoon, and I will see you on Monday. Thanks again. Bye.